My brother was a good ruler and a better leader than I would be. Currently, I'll take over as acting emperor, since in a year my nephew Jenahit II will come of age and be old enough to rule from there. I'll give the throne over slowly to ensure the teachings of state, law, and my brother remain as the building blocks of the state and modesty of my nephew's rule. I, Jenahit the first, brother to Janahit the beloved, will act according to my brother's wishes and wants. I will serve till my end for the defense of the empire and the greatness of it. Acting Emperor Janahit. I, General and brother to Janahit. Can we just look at this? Oh my god, I just love. Yes, it was AI generated, but this is some of the best thing I have ever done. Oh, I have also a picture of Janahit, but I'm not gonna show that because sadly for you guys, you ain't gonna see shit. But Janahit here, Janahit is a high general of Mesoa. He's age 64, father of 5 children, and he's of the house of Janid. And without further ado, let's get into the video. Welcome everyone to another video, and today we're looking at what if civilization down over to human scenario, Age of Conflict. Now, as you can see, this is the death of Janahit, which I have marked down since 2 years before the videos has technically covered the start of. But basically, we're gonna talk about this thing in a bit, and we're gonna talk about Asia over here. Now, Asia, as I talked about before, Hon and this Shogunate over here have been kind of beefing a bit, but most likely you guys haven't heard about the Long head of the House of Long. And the Long head is not very much known about, partly because he's the head of a very important house that controls this region. And currently, as you can see, it has autonomous status, meaning it's basically autonomous. And not only does it have that as its main area, it has another area of that it is the main basically thing too. Oh my god, that looks so bad. And it has another 2 regions up here. It has one more region over here, which is pretty good for it, considering that it is an autonomous state. And now going over to here, the current leader of this, the Zhengzi leader, has been met by some of the Siberian leaders over here with a weird declaration of something. He doesn't know what it is, but when he is especially in the state of like confusion, news of raiding parties have started to has arrived from here. Now, the Siberian tribes over here haven't done anything since their inauguration into this episode, except they're doing quite well, and they're doing actually something. They haven't done anything since the last time that they had fights with each other. And like I said, they are these words Mongols. Partly because of their stocky nature, and partly because they are technically going to about to be very, very Mongolian-like. For the first challenge of theirs, they have to take over a... that's not something I was very... Huh? Now I see. And we quickly see that their first trial comes in the form of them kinda just having a few problems here. That being that they have to attack this town. Their plan, starve it out, or just use whatever fire you can to weaken the stones. because they learned that fire can weaken stones by just crumbling them. That knowledge came through some time, but they even kept a small little corridor over here open, just so they can kind of plunder the resources over here. And once no more supplies came through, and the soldiers over here weren't able to escape, and then circumvention started to happen, and eventually, after a few months, they did some bad stuff over here. The next challenge would be to capture a actual town again. As you can see, they have gone a bit more farther, but as you can see, their attack has more centralized in the boot. And this boot shall have a spike going from it, because not only does it have a spike, it has 2 spikes. And for some reason, these spikes have been met with, well, fangs. And these fangs quickly start to make the Siberian tribes retreat. Now, why are the Siberian tribes being forced to retreat? Well, partly because their forces are getting annihilated, and secondly because the black powder is being used. They don't know what it is, they have never seen it, even though it would have been good for them to know about it. The Zhengjin, she don't really tell anyone except the Ujis and the Melchis about the black powder. You can see what I'm getting at here. The black powder has kind of revolutionized warfare in Jiangxi, and we quickly see that the town that was taken over here, that administers all of this region over here, kind of just, yeah, was taken back in, again, another 5 months, but it's at least 5 months, 1 month less than the enemy were kind of having to do. Although the town had mediocre defenses, now that we're looking at this, the forces of the Iberians are very lackluster. They have not got strayed away from their ideas of like horseback horse fighting, and they quickly have the home field advantage, right? Well, no, because much of the attacks that they had done had also occurred in the lands that had most likely connected with these people and started to integrate a lot of their culture into them, and started to also visit their territories. We quickly see that the Siberians, having very much a weird sense of deja vu about who's getting fucked over here, quickly see themselves having a large problem. And basically we see that all of this occurs in basically 4 years. And during just 4 years something happens over here. But basically, eventually these areas are kinda, yeah, invaded, and then they're like left alone to their devices, and we quickly see that the Siberians kinda split into 2 eventually, because they couldn't really do much about their own lands, and we quickly see that over the course of a few years they lose all of their complete thing over here. Also, the Jiangxi have also at this point managed to force the Tibetans into the nation, although it was by kind of force, because they had to occupy a few things first. Eventually it kind of worked out, and we quickly see that the Jiangxi have started to quickly consolidate their control of central China. But down in South China, things are brewing that will eventually bring the collapse of this large nation. And the first thing that happens is, surprisingly, a rebellion against the very benevolent ruler, and that is in this area over here. These people over here aren't very much against the ruler, but they eventually see that he's been kind of neglecting the nation by choosing to do a lot of things over here. And I quickly see that the emperor will allow this nation to gain some autonomy, but eventually it kind of forcefully breaks away from the emperor's grasp. And we quickly see that the emperor is very mad, but he will not act on anything, because he doesn't want to have the Ujis kind of look at them and like, you're kind of like Ai Long, should we kind of interfere with you? Eventually even, the Ai Longs gain more territory by a small deal, and now I like their borders like this more a bit. But yes, I don't know. It looks a bit too good. Oh yes, expansion up north. Too bad, not gonna happen. Because if I did this, it looked like a turd. Now it doesn't look like a turd, but it most likely will look like a turd. If I did this, at this point I think I can actually just make up the reason why the nation over here kind of gave up on being a nation. I can't. And the Melchis have just expanded. The Melchis, by the way, are very much squishing the Ujis between them and Jingxi. Might be a bit of a peak time to say this, but these guys over here still fucking hate the people that conquered them. Yep, these guys give no shits about the guys up north, and so they break away. And we slowly see that each of these people over here, even over here, we see that this guy wants to break away, and eventually does, although quickly taking up the mantle of not being a Li Jingxi or Li Ying, either that or being invaded. And that's also being invaded. But quickly we see that they will take over a lot of territory over here, taking quite a significant amount actually. And they quickly stop their expansion over there, and that's because over here this guy has decided, why not just annex these lands? Because, well, yes, we have kind of the ability to do so, but it would also be a bit good for us ourselves, considering we don't really have a lot of naval territory to speak of. And once the Jingxis see that their coastlines are getting thinner and their trade over here is getting cocked off, they start the first first Great Jingxi War. We see that the Great Jingxi War will actually be the Great Dynastial War, as these nations have already formed themselves some dynasties and have started to act like dynasties. And we quickly see that the Li Jingxis really do not care about these nations. All they want is just their naval territory back. And we quickly see that their ideas of invading another nation and then forcibly taking the territory goes bad when they invade this pink nation that has been getting very friendly with the Melji and everyone else over here. And once the Jingxi have done so, they're gonzo, because who said they would be without problems. We quickly see that South China has been, since it's helping out Jingxi, been working behind the scenes to weaken the Jingxi, and we quickly see that the weakening has worked, as a lot of these areas over here near the capital that have not still given up their idea of having one large nation, quickly their own nation basically over here quickly declare independence, and even the central area, which has at least one town in it, declares independence. And we quickly see that with all of this going on, the Li Jingxi see that most of their territory over here is quickly forced to either comply or be invaded, and the first reaction to that, either comply with us or be invaded by us, is met with compliance, because they don't want to be invaded, which is pretty normal. And eventually we see that the various nations that have now formed form a united alliance against these guys, and quickly we see that all of them form into one large nation that, surprise surprise, has actually everything to do with not them hating each other, but more or less them basically being very petty against who they lost against. We quickly see that the Grand Rebellion, as it's called now, shall start its first moves over here until it gets the monarch, the Flower Rebellion. And we quickly see that the Flower Rebellion will take up that name by putting a flower for its flag, known as the magenta lily. It's called that because it looks magenta, and it is magenta, but it's nowhere close to a lily, but it has the leaves of a lily. So yeah, we quickly see that mostly these three towns over here kind of give up once they see forces of, well, the rebellion forces on their doorstep. And we quickly see that the emperor over here is very mad, and he quickly starts to get even more madder when the capital is threatened, because they have like a defense array around them. So if you take these areas, they have a very good defense force. Weak as they are, the rebellion is doing very good. And we quickly see that the reason they're doing so good is because of the involvement of South Chinese troops. And we quickly see that the South Chinese are trying to bring down the Genghis because they see them as a future threat, something that needs to be dealt with. And we quickly see that news of this of the South Chinese betraying the Genghis policy, that, well, agreement with them to not kind of interfere in each other's affairs, quickly causes the Genghis to get very mad and declare war on the South Chinese. I'm taking that back because they don't. And also because they don't have the manpower to do so, because they're also in a civil war. Not a good idea to go into war while you're in a civil war, because you're already in a war. We quickly see that the idea over here for the Flower Rebellion was very much take any towns you can to capture the administrative areas, and once you've captured enough administrative areas, you can just force them to join you. And no surprise, these areas eventually just declare independence. What seemed to be a foolproof and strong nation has now started to fall apart. We quickly see that not only will all of these nations, all of this rebellion's forces quickly crowd around this area, but also due to the large success and not wanting to be kind of burnt down before being able to join the rebellion, this town over here quickly takes over control of some of its surroundings and declares that it is with the Flower Rebellion and decides to join it. Now, over here we see that a large portion of the lands over here are to join the Flower Rebellion, and the reason is because the forces over here that were holding these regions together, yeah, they have now left, and we quickly see that the Tibetan people over here, folks basically, are not very fond of being ruled over by a nation that they don't really like. So they quickly take over these areas and skedaddle. That's the only thing they do. They take over these regions, skedaddle. They get away. As they do that, they also force some regions over here to abandon their land. Some people abandon their own territories over here. We quickly see that over here, the Genghis see a great problem, as large amounts of their people are now without defense. And we quickly see that this whole area, yeah, it's taken by the what is eventually going to be called very much the entire nation, because no one knows what happened to the areas over there. No one really wants to ask because nobody really knows, and so they don't really think that it's worth knowing, and so they don't ask. Very smart ass idea to not ask, but yeah. We quickly see that I will kind of polish all of this because looked a bit bad. But eventually, around this capital, forces around the capital quickly start to siege some areas over here. And even in some of the capital areas themselves, Flower Rebellion forces start to see themselves being helped out by the local people over here. Eventually, some of these areas quickly just join the rebellion. We see that the people of the capital are very not happy, and due to the emperor's escape from the capital, since he did want to escape and continue the fight, his people will be very mad at him for escaping and not taking them with him. And we quickly see that doesn't really do him quite the justice. He quickly escapes to Uji, where from Uji he starts to do some political shenanigans. Eventually, the Ujis try and see what's going on. He very much tells them off, saying that they are a lesser nation, they shouldn't exist, and the only reason they managed to exist was because the Zhengxi forces helped them. And that just triggered them, and they kicked him out of their nation. The Meljis did the same. And eventually we see that the Flower Rebellion also took over most of the south. And the Yolkaji were also knocking on the doors of expansion. Quickly we see that they will expand only a bit, because they only wanted some territory over here. That being this territory, and we see that the Emperor gifted them this territory to both that allow these guys to have anything. But quickly we see that for some reason, troops over here of the Uji, well, how do I say this? Puppet enter into Zhengxi lands. What do the Ujis do? They force them their way in here, and are like, yo, we do not care about your entire thing that's going on. All we want is you to give us some of your territories, and that's all we want. Quickly they will be gifted these lands, and that's all they want. Granted that these areas quickly break away from the Flower Rebellion's control and become an independent nation. And we quickly see that the Zhengxis, although strong, have not been able to, for the first time in their entire history, defend their own nation. And with this rebellion over here, the Flower Rebellion quickly winning over the people, and the Emperor eventually being captured and executed, we see that the entire nation will start to fall apart as the my entire mouse started to tweak out. We see that the city-state will be forced upon this capital over here, where it has no control over its surrounding areas and surrounding regions, making it basically useless to anyone. And quickly see that these areas over here gifted some lands and territories, very much stronger than the guys over here. I actually like how I have freedom to make these borders. I very much like them. Some of these borders will be so horrid, in fact, that many of the people who are drawing them either puke or do not puke, because yeah, they just don't. We quickly see that this nation over here becomes very powerful in the central areas. Although it is very powerful, it quickly sees that the Flower Rebellion quickly gives most of the northern regions independence, partly because they weren't really able to convince them to join them, like the other regions were unable to want to join them. And over here we see that a great other dynasty will be forced into existence, where it only has 2 towns. One town quickly just gives up on basically having all of these areas. And eventually we'll see that this video already has covered most of what I wanted to say, even though it's kind of short. We will get into some stuff that are now going on in Mesoa. We see that over the whole thing over here that happened, Jenahid has finally allowed his nephew to take over this the rule of the country, but he's still slowly doing it. But eventually Anchorus and Jenahid contracts a pretty bad, like they have different different conditions, different diseases, but they do track the disease. Jenahit dies after Ankaros, who dies days before he does. But as Jenahit is on his deathbed, his nephew decides that he will do as his father and uncle did, and he will become Jenahit, the Great of Mesoa. He will bring together all Mesoan people and bring in a era of Mesoan prosperity, although now basically nowhere to expand except to the south, where we see that he will begin a massive expansion down the south. And through the years, he manages to actually convince many of the local tribesmen and tribeswomen to join the army, or not army, but to join the nation of here. And we quickly see that Mesoa quickly starts to live up to its name as a Mesopotamian nation. And with that, we see that the last expansion of this video will bring the end of the video. Thank you guys for watching. It has been a great time to make this video for you, and we quickly see that after all of this, Mesoa quickly expands into some territories that it very much shouldn't expand into, but it has support from the people. And I'll see you guys next time.